and welcome to our program Where God Weeps, a program where we talk about the situation of the suffering and persecuted church around the world. Today we're going to be considering the country of Syria, a country in which the risen Christ said, "Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?" Where Saul was struck blind, regained his sight, was baptized, and began his mission as an apostle, St. Paul. To tell us more about the situation of Catholics today in Syria, it's my great privilege to welcome the Chaldean Bishop of Aleppo in northwestern Syria, His Excellency Bishop Antoine Audo. Welcome, Your Excellency, and thank you for being with us today in our program.
I have to answer and to say thank you for welcoming me in this program, and it's a big honor for me to communicate my experience, my reflections, to express our situation.
Your Excellency, a little bit to the situation of Christians in Syria. There is freedom of worship, albeit under the regard of the Ba'athist government. Can you tell us, what is it like to live as a Christian today in Syria?
I think we have a special situation in Syria as Christians. We have the freedom of going to the church, freedom of our religion. We have to distinguish in the Islam societies a difference between the freedom of religion and the freedom of conscience. In Syria, we have the freedom of religion. We can celebrate our celebrations, our prayers, our meetings, our programs without any difficult generally.
But freedom of conscience?
That means generally it's forbidden for a Muslim man to change his religion. So we can't accept or encourage people to convert to Christianism.
So you're not allowed, for example, to evangelize?
No.
And what happens if a young man comes to you, a young Muslim, and he says, "I would like to convert"? How do you handle a situation like that?
We can give him, for instance, the gospel, ask him to pray, and to ask it's my own experience, to have the baptism of desire, to have this communion with the Christ in his heart, and I help him to pray, to know the personality of Jesus Christ, the heart of the gospel, and if he wants more, he has to go outside of the country to can do what he want to do.
Would there be a lot of these kind of Muslims, that is, Muslims who would be Christians in their hearts?
I can't say a big number, but they exist, and perhaps we have to encourage this kind to be Christians in the heart in our countries. I think it is possible to spread this spirituality.
You have a doctorate in contemporary Muslim political thought from the University of Sorbonne in Paris. How would you describe Islam in Syria?
Islam in Syria is, I think, the best Islam, I think, in the Middle East. I say it by conviction. There is a big tradition, old tradition of tolerance, of mutual respect between Christians and Muslims. And I think the reason is because the Christians had a big influence in the life of the society. They were involved in the culture, in the politics. And I think it's very important to can go in good relations with the Muslim people. We have to be rooted in the Arab culture, because the Arab language is the door to go into the Islam, into the Quran. And when as Christians and as Arab Christians, we know very well the Arab culture, it's very easy for us to be in real communication with the Muslim people. Without the Arab language, we are outside of the culture, outside of Islam.
So, for you, the Arab, this relationship that you have with the Muslims, could this be, for example, perceived or understood as a model for the relations in other countries, for example?
I think so. We have to encourage this involvement of the Christians in the Arab culture, because it's really a chance for us. In front of some fundamentalism today in the Islamic societies, we don't have to be afraid. We don't have to go outside of the society and to live in a ghetto. It's, I think, against our faith. We have to continue, even if we have some pressures, some difficulties. We have to continue to be ourselves and to be in this attitude, or to be open and to understand and to ask ourselves why the Muslim people today in the world has a lot of problem and interrogations in front of their future.
The situation with the international community and the Muslim and Christian relationship has been deeply affected by, for example, the war in Iraq. Do you see this having also an impact on your relationship with Muslims in Syria? Is the nature of your relationship between Muslims and Christians changing as a consequence of these international events?
I think so. The war in Iraq is a big humiliation for the Muslim people, is a destruction of a country, and especially for the Sunnite group, who are the majority in Syria. They feel a very big destruction of a society, of a country, and they fear for themselves in Syria too. So I think we have to understand this feeling of humiliation of Islam in front of the Occident, and for them this the United States, Europe, is Christians. They do not distinguish between state and church. For them, those Americans, those Europeans are Christians, and in the name of the church, they come to dominate the Islamic countries.
The issue when an American pastor decided that he wanted to burn the Quran, what kind of impact does that have on Christians in Syria?
Very direct reactions against the Christians. It's a big error. How they speak about it in the administration, in the schools, at the university. they ask us, what do you think about this attitude? And we have to defend ourselves and to say that this man represents just some small group.
He's, I think, 50 people.
But you know now the mass media, the televisions, it was every day the information everywhere, and it's give us a lot of trouble in our life.
You have said that Christians are generally opposed to fundamentalism in Syria, but at the same time there is an increasing number of, for example, ladies who are wearing the complete veil, the nakib, is that correct? Is this a sign of increasing fundamentalism starting to creep into Syria?
I think so. In this way of dressing, first, the Islam wants to defend a identity. They want to be themselves in front of of Europe, all the ideas who comes from elsewhere. But it's becoming more and more increasing in our society. And in front of them, generally, the Christians, girls and ladies want to dress in a modern way. And so there is like a opposition between two categories. And it's not very healthy for a society. It creates a lot of tensions and some trouble. And we search to say for our people to be careful,
to be modest,
to be modest, and to be ready to express our Christian faith, even in our way of dressing. Especially
in view of the fact that secular culture coming from Europe and the United States is very, at least at the moment, promiscuous. And so everything that is perceived to be Western, therefore Christian, is considered to be immoral.
Unfortunately. So we have to be very careful. We have to respect this culture, to be ourselves, but to be with the others, as we say, as Christians, and for the others, not in opposition, not in attitude of provocation. It's not a Christian spirit. We have to respect, to give the real meaning our faith. And when the Muslim people look to us, and when they discover that we are a people who pray, a people who are a principle of morality, they respect us a lot. You can't imagine how much they respect the prayer and the morality of the Christians. But when they discover that the Christians do not have any respect for prayer or morality, then they say, look at them, there is no law, no respect in their life.
This is especially pertinent at this moment in time because Syria has accepted 1.2 million Iraqi refugees, I believe of which 60,000 are Christians.
Yes.
Is Syria unique in its welcome to Christian refugees coming from Iraq? I believe the only other country has been Jordan, which has received so many refugees.
In Jordan, some in Lebanon, a little number in Egypt, but I think the big number arrived to Syria. Why? Before, I think, first, Syria has a sense of solidarity, Arab solidarity,
regardless of whether Christian or Muslim?
No, to everyone, all. I think there is a sense of solidarity, the sense of Arab welcoming. I think it's a important tradition. This is the first reason, and because we are neighbors, we speak the same language, the same history, the same people, Arab people. But the second reason, I think, it's a political one, because Syria is very interested by what is arriving in Iraq. So it's an occasion for Syria to be in contact, to know the real situation of Iraq, to take care of Syria.
In view of this proximity of Syria to Iraq, of course, what happens in Iraq is going to be exceedingly important. Now the US troops have started to withdraw. What do you see as the future for Iraq? Do you think that this country is going to be able to maintain the structures that have been put into place at such a young and early stage?
The official position of Syria is defending the unity of Iraq.
As a country? As
a country. We don't accept this division. But now, in the reality, there is a big fight between different groups.
Between Muslim and Muslim.
Muslim,
the Shia and the Sunni.
Sunni, and we have the Kurds in the north. And we are asking ourselves how Iraq will find again his unity. I think the big problem in Iraq is the losing of Sunnite group, the power. Before, since centuries, the authority was in the hands of the Sunnite in Iraq. And with this war, the Sunnite lose the power, and it's a big problem, as I said in the beginning, of humiliation, of destruction of a society. Yes. And the problem, the future, how they will find the solution.
The national identity again.
Yes, a reconciliation, a real project of to accept themselves different and to live together. It's a big problem. It's not easy to say if in the next year we will have
a civil war.
Or unity is not easy to be realized.
For you, as the Bishop of Aleppo, the Chaldean community is, of course, the dominant Catholic community in Syria. You have been working day and night, I imagine, with this question of refugees. Mm-hmm. How and what does this mean for you personally? How have you been in contact with the refugees? And was there one story that, for example, touched you particularly among these refugees?
First, with the coming of those Christians, Chaldeans from Iraq, our community became more important as number. And it was a challenge for us to welcome them, to organize help for them. It gave us a lot of possibilities in Damascus, in Aleppo, in the northeast of Syria. In the same time, I am in admiration in front of their face.
Of these refugees.
They come to church because they lose everything, and the church is the only place where they come and they can find their identity.
Their home.
Their home. They have something. I felt deeply this situation, and I did what I can to welcome them, to give them this impression that they are at home, they are not foreigners for us, and to organize some help for them. But in the same time, there is a big destructions in the psychology.
In the family.
In the family. I find the mothers from Iraq, they have to support a lot.
They're carrying a lot.
They are carrying a lot, and really, I am in admiration in front of them. But a lot of suffering, a lot of, but they are able to support and to continue to resist, to see how they can wait to go to Canada, to United States, to Australia.
Yes. Are they going to stay, or do you see that in fact their deeper intent is simply to get a visa to go to another country?
90% they want to go abroad. They are waiting for the visa. I think generally United States, Canada and Australia understood very well the situation, and they are doing a lot to help those refugees to can have a home and a work in the future.
But this is terrible news for the Middle East.
I think so. Every day I have families in Aleppo, in Damascus, who comes to tell me, thank you, Bishop, for all you did for us. And now
we're leaving.
I am happy for them, and I am in my heart there is something. I say in myself, which future for ourselves. The same is waiting for us in the next years. I can't imagine, because I am doing what I can to stay, to be a living church in our context. But I have to say that this is a big anguish for us. Suffering for us, yes.
What do you see as being the key for this question now between Muslim and Christian?
I think the key, it's the peace between Israel and Palestinians. This is
the heart of
the problem, because this gives a situation of instability in the region, and the Christian can't support this situation for their children, for the future. Then they began to reflect how to do for the future, and the solution is immigration. If we have a situation of stability, of capacity to live in peace, our countries are a very nice countries, very nice traditions. We have a lot of values and rooted in our context. So this is the problem. We need peace. Why the Christians of Iraq are leaving? Because there is no stability, no future. They fear for their families, for their future.
Your Excellency, are you hopeful? Are you optimistic?
It's a big question.
Yes. I'm sorry, like a bomb in your lap.
By temperament, I am very realistic. I calculate a lot. The problem of the number of the Christians in the Middle East gave me a lot of questions. Iraq, Holy Land, Lebanon. But as bishop, as Christian, I think we have a mission. We are minorities, but we can to be a living minorities in the Muslim societies. We have to find our place, not to be afraid, to be in the confidence, to create a good relations, and to have a dynamism for the future. This is what I am trying to do. in reality.
And what Christ would ask of us.
Yes, it's very demanding for us, but it's a nice way of truth to live the gospel and to be ourselves and to have real friends between the Muslim people and to feel at home in our societies.
Your Excellency, thank you very much for having been with us today.
Thank you for all those questions. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to express my ideas, even if my English is not at the level.
It was perfect.
Thank you.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for having been with us today on Where God Weeps. And if you'd like to know more about the situation facing Christians in Syria, or perhaps what you might be able to do to help, I would encourage you to look at the contact information at the end of this program. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.